Hello, everybody, and welcome to Web and Beyond Live for May 3rd, 2021. I'm Ray Sidney Smith. I'm president of W3 Consulting and managing director of our W3C Web Services, which provides affordable web and WordPress hosting, domain name registration services, and other web-related services for small business. Web and Beyond Live is a weekly show about topical and timely small business digital marketing related issues, all the things I'm tracking from week to week as a small business digital marketing strategist that I think you as a small business owner needs to be successful marketing and managing on the web and beyond today. And so if you're joining me here live, welcome. Feel free to chat and ask questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. I toggle between different screens, so I'll catch your comments and so forth in between those. But if you're watching the replay or listening to the podcast afterward, feel free to leave a comment in the video comment section or shoot me an email. And I'll be happy to do my best to answer those questions either in a future episode or otherwise. Today's agenda is we're going to be covering the small business digital marketing news this week. Then I have some announcements. Today we're going to be covering Google Chrome 91 feature that I think will be helpful to some small business owners regarding email. And you can even try it now, even though it's a future item that's coming out in Chrome 91. But you can try it now. I'll show you how to do that. Chrome Android update will help you save money, which is really fun and good for businesses, right? We always have to watch our dollars. Some Bitcoin news. Are we nearing the end of AMP, which are accelerated mobile pages? A good discussion on that. We'll cover the 7 best optimization best practices of 2021. And then we will close out with a little discussion on WordPress and the future of the WordPress theme management, basically blocks. And I'm looking forward to that conversation as well. So we're going to have a pretty action-packed show today. So let's get started with the show. And so let me go into full screen mode here and bring up the images so you can see these things along with me. I think I can do this. There we go. Wonderful. So first and foremost, I just wanted to quickly run through some of these headlines that I think are really interesting for us all. One is in Google Chrome 91, which is not out yet. We're in Chrome 90, but you will have Chrome 91 in just a couple weeks. And in 91, we will be getting access to a new feature in stable release. But right now in the beta, you can actually turn this on. In essence, what it's going to allow you to do is to use Control or Command, depending upon Mac or PC. So Control or Command and C and V, the C and V characters. So Command V, Control C, Command C or Control V or Command C on the Mac and Windows respectively. You will now be able to copy and paste files from your desktop into Chrome, which means that you can now copy a file from, say, a folder on your desktop or from within, your documents or in Finder on the Mac. You can just copy items there. You can then go over to your email, say open up Gmail, open up whatever web email application you have open, and you'll be then able to Control V or Command V, and that will paste that file and attach it to that email. This is a very powerful productivity enhancement, I think, for all of us. And so just looking forward to having that come to the system. But if you're a little bit impatient, you actually can turn that on now. If you head over to Chrome://flags. This is fairly stable. I haven't heard any issues from the Chrome development team. If you didn't know, I'm one of the Google Chrome product experts. So I volunteer in the Google Chrome community to help folks who are having issues. I haven't seen nary a word about this. So it seems pretty stable. But if you go to the search field at the top of Chrome://flags, you will be able to type in clipboard file names all one word. So clipboard space file names, again, all one word. You will get an option. Just enable that, and you will go ahead and get the option turned on for yourself. And then from there, the clipboard functionality will work. And so a really powerful tool for you to be able to access. And I just think it's a great leveling up of things in that sense. All right, next up is back on the Android side in Chrome. Chrome Android is now getting the ability for you to be notified when there are price drops. So this is a really great money-saving tool for small business owners. In essence, you can follow and track whether that be technology or inventory products that you have to keep in inventory. you can now go in and this feature should be rolled out across all of Chrome Android right now. So I haven't heard anyone who doesn't have the feature yet, but if you don't, it'll be out very soon. But in essence, in Chrome Android in the latest version, you can now go up into your settings, turn on the feature which is called Track Price Changes on Tabs, and price drop alerts will then appear and give you the ability for you to go in, and when you look at products on and in your searches, you'll then be able to say, you know what, I want to track this pricing. I did this with the Samsung recent phone that I was looking at, and the Samsung 20 I think Ultra that I was looking at, or the 21 Ultra. I was just looking to see whether or not it was going to drop in price. And so I just went in, pressed on the option for it to go ahead and track the price. It just displays a little item whenever you see products in the Chrome Android experience. And then it just pops down a little notification on your Android phone or tablet that says, hey, this product has dropped by X amount of dollars. And you can then click on the link, see where it is currently priced and for what, and potentially purchase it. So if you're looking to make any investments in the business, this is a really great way to pay attention. Or if you have commodity items in the business that you need to pay attention to, this is a great way to do it also. Again, if you're not able to turn this on, the instructions from the link in the video give you instructions to be able to maybe patchwork it to get it on in the Chrome experimental flags menu. But either way, you should be getting it turned on for you very soon either way. Next up, just a little bit about cryptocurrency. This is kind of the beginnings of what is going to happen in the cryptocurrency world. But Binance, which is the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, they are launching their own NFT market. I don't like the idea of exchanges generally holding your cryptocurrency wallets, and so certainly get an external cryptocurrency wallet, whether that be Exodus or using Coinbase or another wallet that's going to allow you to be able to securely hold your cryptocurrency. But in essence, now they are launching an NFT marketplace. NFTs are non-fungible tokens. Go back a few episodes where I explained NFTs. And so these are in essence the ability for you to authenticate items. They could be digital items, but they can also be physical items. They could be titled to something. Basically, the NFT is just a way on the blockchain to be able to certify the authenticity of something. And so Binance is getting in the game. They're going to be up against Mintable and Rarible, these other NFT marketplaces. So we'll see what happens. OpenSea is another NFT marketplace. And so we'll see what happens. It's really interesting. And it just goes to show that I think small business owners have now another tool in their toolkit for being able to sell certain items. I've actually been thinking, well, sponsors could potentially sponsor a podcast episode via NFT. You could actually just put the podcast episode up there, and then the podcast sponsor could potentially purchase that episode as a mechanism for handling the payment of the sponsorship. So different ways in which you can use NFTs. I'm looking forward to seeing how people are doing it. Right now, most people are using this for selling artwork, and so giving NFTs as a part of the artwork. But I see a lot more opportunity here than just those, and the concept of speculation in a new market, which is the NFT market. So just wanted to kind of pique people's attention related to that. Next up, I wanted to talk about the end of AMP. This article on LeFou's website talked about the idea that, in the next few months, and this is kind of your reminder that Core Web Vitals is coming. Google is, they pushed it out a couple months. And so we're talking June, end of June, when they're going to start implementing Core Web Vitals. Again, go back a few episodes and look back in the deck for the Core Web Vitals episodes that we've done. And so Core Web Vitals is coming, which means that there are a couple things that you need to do in order to make sure that you are prepared for it. And this seems and sounds a bit self-serving, but if you're not hosting with me, it doesn't matter if you're hosting with W3C Web Services or otherwise. You need to figure out whether or not your shared hosting or VPS is fast enough to be able to give a page experience satisfying to Google. And so many times shared accounts are overtaxed. They're shared for a reason. You are in a pool cooled environment. It's kind of like having your own hotel room versus being in a hostel. You're sharing a bed, you're sharing, restroom, those kinds of things. You have to figure out whether or not your website has enough beef, has enough energy and power, processing power, to be able to give Google the experience they want for their users when people come to google.com and do a search. So this makes a difference here in the sense that with the movement toward page experience, that is what Core Web Vitals is measuring for, we are going to see potentially accelerated mobile pages start to wane in popularity. Why? Because the reality is that AMP, in essence, displays your website through the Google domain. That is the second level domain, that is google.com, and Google being the second level there. Google.com is what shows to a browser when someone visits on their mobile device for your web page when you have AMP turned on. Now, this is, of course, detrimental to you in a number of different ways: ad serving, to tracking, to branding, really. Like, you want your domain to be showing and for it to be dominant in the engine. That is, how Google puts everybody, sends traffic to you, via Google. And so accelerated mobile pages has a whole bunch of problems. That's not to say that it isn't good for certain people, news organizations, otherwise they've made it work. I think that with page experience coming forward under Core Web Vitals, this will actually be an improvement. And what we know is that page experience will now get greater billing in the search engine, and therefore you could potentially get rid of AMP, which of course, adds weight to a website. You don't want to add more weight to a website by having to implement more plugins and more code to make AMP work. So I'm not quite sure how this is all going to work out. We still have Google Web Stories, which is basically AMP for the stories format. But I think AMP as a protocol, as a framework altogether, it may be waning in its existence. Time will tell, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention that if you do get your Core Web Vitals up to that green zone, and when you do your tests in the page speed insights, in the Google Page Speed Insights test, then perhaps turning off AMP will actually boost your SEO, your search engine exposure, more than having AMP turned on. So just be mindful as you make your way forward if you're really highly concentrated on organic search traffic, and then, of course, following that up with conversion rate optimization, making sure that you're really paying attention to both organic traffic and CRO at the same time, because those are the things that, at least with Google, is going to bring you the most business. All right, switching gears to a web optimization best practices for 2021 checklist that I found on Business to Community in my travels. And this was an interesting list, and I think useful for us to think through. And so I just wanted to run through these very quickly with you. One is they talk about optimizing for a mobile first indexing. Since 2014, when I wrote Solomo Success, I've been talking about this idea of being mobile first. And so this is right up my alley in terms of how does every experience, every campaign, whether that be ad or organic campaign that you run for your website, for your social media, for otherwise, how does it appear from a mobile first perspective? So it makes a lot of sense for you to be able to have either a responsive or separate mobile website, making sure that you are minifying images, basically compressing those images and making them tailored for a mobile experience, right? An image that's 1080 by 1080 full resolution for desktop is not the same image that's necessary for a smartphone or even a feature phone when it loads that website. Making sure that you have things that are a little bit more pithy, making sure that things load fast. All of those are good things for a mobile first indexing perspective. So I like that piece here on the checklist. Next, of course, is page speed. This is right in line with Core Web Vitals. Make sure that you are using Google's Page Speed Insights tool to be able to figure out whether or not you are running fast enough for Google. And that, of course, is Google on the desktop and on mobile. And it gives you a full checklist of things that you can do to fix those things. Number 3 is basically a part of number 2. So I'm not quite sure why they separated those other than to have another item. But in essence, you want to make sure that your Core Web Vitals and your page speed are one and the same in terms of green, okay? You want to optimize meta title and description. This is traditional classic SEO. Still makes a lot of sense for you to basically have your site structured, your pages structured for the keyword or key phrases you're trying to optimize for. Remember, one keyword or key phrase per website, per web page on a website. So you could have dozens and dozens of different key phrases you want your site to manage and to rank for, but you want each page to, in essence, dominate for one key phrase or keyword, right? And a key phrase is just multiple keywords together. So a keyword would be cars. A key phrase would be how to tie a bow tie, right? You want your page to be optimized for that key phrase, and that to be the only page on the site that optimizes for it. And then you can direct other pages to that page with other terms that are similar to it, but you want each one to have its own. Optimizing images. This goes back to mobile optimization. You don't want big images. You want file formats that people can actually view. Make sure that you have alt tags in every image that you want to rank for, and you'll be good to go there. Lazy loading is one of those things that maybe your site will want lazy loading. It depends on the layout, and that also depends upon now core web vitals and making sure that your core web vitals aren't being tossed off by lazy loading, and just depends upon how good the lazy loading optimization is on your particular site. Schema markup. This is really, really important. So I think a lot of business owners don't realize that schema exists. If you go to schema.org, I'm putting that link on the screen right now, schema.org. Schema.org is a page that will explain to you what schema is. In essence, schema allows the search engine to show rich content to people, different types of things. That could be products. It could be reviews that your business has received. It could be recipes. It could be events. Location data is a type of schema data, and FAQs. All kinds of things end up being a part of schema, and so many people just don't put those things on their site, and therefore they're not ranking for each of those different avenues that Google can bring you traffic. Google is not just one search engine. It's dozens of search engines blended together, from YouTube for video to Google Maps with your business listings. All of those different types of disparate data, Google Shopping, Google Images, all of those different search engines blend together into what you know as Google.com. But with schema, you can actually impact each of those different search engines one by one. And it's very, very powerful stuff, and you need to know what schema is. Okay, so then we make our way along to what they're calling perfect technical SEO. So I would consider this infrastructure SEO. And so technical SEO means fixing those things that are server side, making sure that you have a sitemap, making sure that you have your robots.txt. In essence, go to Google Search Console or go to the Bing Webmaster Central, the Google Bing console, basically, that allows you to do that. I think it's now in the Microsoft Advertising Console. And so you can go ahead in there and make sure that you're not getting errors, that things are properly being crawled, and that you can see how your site is performing. And so the Google Search Console is definitely your friend, and you should make sure that you are both, in your domains are in the system, and that you're paying attention to this infrastructure piece regarding search engine optimization. So good checklist. I think it's well worth going down and paying attention to what things you need to do to make sure your website is being found that way. Let's do my discussion on WordPress first, and then we'll wrap back around to the B2B content marketing. No. Actually, let me do that. I'm going to go back and do this B2B content stuff, because we're already in line with talking about search engine optimization. And so this article on B2C, business to community, came out, and I just equally found it interesting and frustrating in reading this article, because it ends up making you question different parts of B2B content marketing as it relates to organic search. And so here, just like first off, you can see here they created this chart, and they talked about the different parts of the funnel. And you'll know that I frequently talk about the different parts of the funnel as all of the major social networks and so on and so forth talk about it, in terms of being awareness, consideration, and then conversion. Here they have put this under attraction, consideration, conversion, but basically the same things. On the left-hand side of the funnel, they have listed a set of items that you would want to create as content, what I would consider content marketing hub. Your content marketing hub on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, they have listed the consumer items. Now, I think that these are all equally useful for B2B and B2C. I don't see the argument to say that a blog on the B2C side wouldn't work on the B2B. I don't think that a product demo on the B2C side wouldn't work on B2B. And reviews are important. All of those things on the right hand side, I think, are actually all useful and applicable for some B2B from the B2C side. So I'm just going to call it bunk. You really should be thinking about all of these pieces minus viral content. I don't even know what that is, but you should just be creating substantial and good content, great content for the business. We're thinking about this from a long-term, long-tail perspective, which is that over time, it will bring organic traffic to your site. And then the things on the left-hand side end up being things that are gated. Gated meaning that you can capture email, you can bring people closer to the business in the consideration side. So this funnel just seems all kinds of wrong to me, right? The things on the right-hand side are really things that are going to bring people to your website. It's going to be bringing awareness or attraction, right? Maybe even the buyer guides would still be next level in terms of email capture. The things on the left-hand side may be a little bit of awareness, attracting people, right? You might host a webinar, but then the recorded webinar can now sit and be a gated piece of material that brings people closer to the sale. That is, they're capturing your email and they're bringing them closer to the sale by starting them in an email sequence. So this chart doesn't make any sense. So I'm just, I'm just a bit annoyed by the by the view of it, and so ignore it. I think it gives one thing that it does give here is actually a set of really good options for content. Like if you have, you're thinking, oh, well, should I do this or should I do that? Well, maybe an industry report or maybe a white paper might be good for you if you're in B2B. Maybe you haven't thought about putting together a buyer guide. And if your product provides a B2B product, you might think about buyer guides to be able to build out for your business customers. So some really good ideas here for it, but don't think about it from the perspective of it being a part of the funnel. And they actually didn't separate out which ones are top of the funnel or bottom of the funnel items. So it really just ends up being very confusing. That being said, once we make our way down, they then talk about a strategy for being able to develop awareness, consideration, and then ultimately conversion or decision. And this makes a lot of sense. And it's something that you should do. You should be thinking about what are the things that are going to bring awareness to the business and ultimately taking people from awareness, that is marketing, say, a webinar. Marketing the webinar is making awareness, bringing awareness to you. Consideration is that place where you have captured information and now they've shown some level of interest in it, right? Just like picking up a product while you're standing in a retail store. They've picked up a product and now you can engage them in a conversation about, oh, are you looking to buy that glass, piece of art? Well, what other types of glass art are you looking to purchase? And now asking them questions about the specificity of what they're looking for, maybe figuring out their budget. All of those things are happening in consideration because they've shown interest, and then ultimately bringing them closer toward the sale or conversion. So defining that sales funnel, creating a buyer persona, absolutely important, understanding who your ideal, most likely buyer is, and then creating personas to match those people. And then taking them further down the funnel to be able to go ahead and convert, right? And so we want to really pay attention to these things. They kind of stop short here in the article. They got you through the buyer funnel, and then they kind of stopped. But I think that you should certainly take this forward in terms of creating a customer journey map. Basically, if you could think of like a snakes and ladders board, right? What's the flow that people take as they follow along the snakes and ladder pieces of the puzzle? And those ladders in Chutes and Ladders or Snakes and Ladders where people hit one point and they jump a couple of lines. Those are sales funnels, right? Those are funnel opportunities for you to think about how do you get people from the start of the board to the purchase point, right? Which is conversion faster. And thinking about what are those points where people are along their customer journey. They're doing research, they're talking to friends, maybe they're posting on social networks, and they are trying to learn about this stuff. They're searching Google, and they come across these different elements. Where can you capture them and bring them along and forward on the board as fast as possible but not too fast, right? We don't want to go from first date to marriage too quickly, or to marriage proposal too quickly. That can certainly in the B2B environment stymie a relationship. What you really want to do is basically go from first date to second date to third date to finally marriage proposal over time. It depends on how quickly your sales cycle is in a B2B environment. They don't really cover that in this article. So just remember, you're going to have to go through that stage of develop your buyer persona, understand where you're creating content along the sales funnels, and then map those sales funnels to a customer journey map. What is the path that the buyer personas follow in order to be able to get to that end stage? And with those pieces, you are far more likely to create content that's going to be great, that's going to be able to bring people into it. So just be mindful and be skeptical of the content you're reading out here, because many times people are just putting content together for content's sake, and it really doesn't cover the whole picture. And you think you're doing the right things, but you ultimately then end up hurting yourself. So I wanted to close out with this discussion on WordPress and themes and what's going to really happen in the latter part of this year. So WordPress is putting out a new aspect of the platform called full site editing. Full site editing, or FSE, is the premise that it's a whole bunch of features kind of mashed together to, in essence, allow you now to use the Gutenberg block editor on the front end of the WordPress website. This is going to fundamentally change the way in which you think about how to use the editor, how you use the customizer in WordPress, and otherwise. So if you have a WordPress website, or if you don't have a WordPress website, this is something you might consider going forward with whatever program you're going to use in terms of web publishing, because WordPress is now going to give you the ability to use what are called blocks, but they are just, in essence, these abilities, these little content holders that allow you to then manipulate the content and display that content the way you want it to. So if you wanted to create a button, you could go ahead and create a button really easily and quickly. And if you wanted to be able to move things around on the front end of your website, you will now be able to do that. And this is, I mean, I can't understate it in the sense that it is going to be revolutionary for small business owners being able to now put content on the web and structure it in that way using WordPress in very fluid mechanisms, and really with the power in your hands. You're now no longer really held back by the theme you're in or those kinds of things. You will have to choose a theme that supports FSE and the concept of the editor, but once you have that theme, you will really be able to start structuring things. The most powerful thing is that once these set of FSE features, the full site editing features, comes to WordPress, you will be able to create things like landing pages and what I would call a lead page, a page that has a singular call to action as a part of a sales funnel. And that means that when someone lands on your page, you can turn off things like the header and the footer that lets people navigate away from the page, as opposed to just being on the page and being able to do that one thing you want them to do. The power of that means that less plugins, less having to go back and forth between designer and developer to be able to make changes to both the back end and front end of the pages, both the interior pages, but also the front end pages of the site and the structure of it. Very, very powerful components really coming to WordPress. And so I just wanted to kind of put that on your radar. We're going to see more and more discussion about that as we see new features coming. We're coming closer to the point where all features set for this new version coming out will be cut off, and then they'll just be working on refining the features in beta to launch into general release for general availability. So a very, very powerful component of WordPress coming to us all. So make sure that you have good foundation in terms of hosting, making sure that if you're in shared hosting and it's not beefy enough, upgrade your account. And you can talk to me about that. You can talk to your web host about that, and just make sure that you have the appropriate amount of power and force behind your site to be able to have good core web vitals, because then right around the corner after that, WordPress is going to come and launch this new ability for you to have full site editing. And that's going to be very, very powerful for many of you who want to add, widgets to the front end of your site and create different and unique different types of widgets on interior pages of your site and create lead pages and so on and so forth. So some really good stuff coming in that sense. Okay, that is our show for today. I wanted to cover just a couple of quick announcements. We have upcoming tomorrow, actually. So if you're listening to the podcast today, then May 4th is our monthly virtual small business roundtable, and we'll be talking about professional networking in the digital age. So if you're interested in joining us, feel free to head over to www.webandbeyond.community. You can go ahead and join the community. I'll approve you to let you in. And then there's an event in there. Just click on events and you can RSVP to the event. It's a Zoom event, so you'll be able to join us and have a roundtable discussion about the concepts of networking on LinkedIn and Facebook and other places in this new era of social networking online. And so that's Web and Beyond .community. Our next webinar is going to be May. Oh, I thought I had it written down here, but it's going to be May 20th, May 20th. And so if you go to w3cinc.com/events, the upcoming Web and Beyond webinar is going to be build a digital community for your small business and get paid. So this is really talking about the idea of creating and utilizing premium or paid communities for purposes of building a revenue stream. And so I'm looking forward to that webinar. And again, like I said, that's going to be on May 20th, Thursday, May 20th at noon. And you can find that by going to our website /events. So w3cinc.com/events. And so with that, I think those are all of our announcements for the week. And so we have reached the end of our time together. Now, if you've enjoyed the live stream, feel free to click the thumbs up icon. That helps us make new small business friends. And so thank you for doing that. If you have a question, leave a comment. If you want to, you can also tweet or message me at W3Consulting, W3 Consulting on Twitter. And you know that I'm a Twitter fan. Oh, also, we just got Twitter Spaces enabled. So think Clubhouse or a social audio component. We just got Twitter Spaces enabled on our account. So I'm going to be throwing up a couple of spaces. So follow us on Twitter, because in the next week, I'm going to probably start doing some Spaces activity just to kind of test it out and see how it's going. And so you can join us in the audio Spaces on Twitter. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Otherwise, you can join us every Monday, typically at 11 a.m. Eastern, here for Web and Beyond Live. Thanks so much for spending this Web and Beyond Live with me. I'm Ray Sidney Smith on behalf of W3 Consulting and our subsidiary W3C Web Services. Have a great week ahead marketing your small business on the Web and Beyond.